to block 5 of the free motion quiltalong. Today's block is called Bikes, Trams and Paddle Steamers. Again, a reference to our visit to San Francisco and some of the things that we saw there. So what we're going to do with this block today is definitely there's going to be some marking out, especially for these big feathers, because these are really big feathers. There's quite a way to go there. The small ones will be fairly easy for you to do, but if you want to get the same number of feathers in each of the triangles, it's probably a good idea to mark that out with a blue marker. These guys, so basically you've really only got 2 designs going on here. You've got the straight ruler work and then you've got the feather filler. Now you can fill that with whatever you want. You don't have to use the feather. Do whatever you're comfortable with. So with the straight line stuff, I'm definitely going to be using a longer ruler because I've got quite a way to go. So I'm going to use our little all-rounder ruler there. The little Fremo Friend's just not quite long enough for this job, probably for the inside ones, but not for the outside edge. So definitely want to mark up your block. That's the finished block. Now you can see it's actually still a little bit damp because I've actually gotten rid of some of the blue lines and the blue dots on there. One thing you'll have to remember if you're doing this as the block by block quilt as you go method, that you'll need to actually have some extra fabric on one of the edges or the outside edge of the block. So when you mark up the piece of fabric, you're going to have an inch, an inch, an inch, and 2.5 inches at the top edge. So 2.5 inches up here. Just to make sure that when you put those sashings on, it's all going to fit nicely. And of course that's going to make more sense as we get towards the end of this project. Okay, so how I've prepped my piece to kick off with, I haven't actually put the feathers on because I like to challenge myself to see if I can try to get those feathers on without the markings, but I'd probably suggest if you're a newbie that you want to trace the feathers on as well. Definitely want to put those on. Anyway, I've just switched my machine light off. You might be able to make out some little blue dots on here. So they are actually marking out the triangles. And all I need to do is to head from the center. So this is one of those radial patterns where all of the stitching comes from the center out. You only have to go in and out once. You don't have to keep taking the needle up and out and the thread up and out of the block as you go. And we're always coming back to that center. So we do the outside triangle and then the inside and then the inside, always coming back to this point. And then do the next one, the next one, the next one. We're going to do the feather fill. Anyway, let's crack into that so you can see how it's done. Alrighty, so I've got myself set up here. I've got my all-rounder ruler, my ruler foot, and I'm coming out of the center dot point, and I'm just going to head down to that very first outside edge of the triangle. Slow and steady wins the race. I can move myself down because I know I'm going to head in the right spot. That dot, I've got it centered in the middle of the channel. Okay, and then we're going to come straight across to the one in the corner. This basically constitutes that outside triangle. And then back again to the center. So you can line that up, and if I move my finger out of the way, you'll see that even though this channel doesn't reach this point, the ruler has a line coming out of the center of the channel. So if I line the line up with my beginning point, then I can just head back that way and move the ruler along as I need to. So because of the throat space of my machine, at some point the ruler might hit the throat. So if I move the ruler along, I can actually line up now that dot point, and I know I'm going to be in the right place to get into the center. There we go, back at the beginning. So now I'm just going to do the 2 echoes of that with the ruler again. I'm going to do the outside one and then the very interior echo. And of course back to the very beginning again, and again I'm not quite going to reach it, so I can just use that line of the ruler. There we go, and we're going to do that inside one, and we're finished one. So it's pretty straightforward. You break the block down, it's pretty easy to do. Practice to try to go in any direction that you can try. That's the whole purpose of free motion quilting, is you can go backwards, forwards, sideways. And there we go. We've completed that very first triangle. So you're going to do 3 more of those, and then we're going to crack into the feathers. Okay, and there we have it. All 4 of our triangles are done, and I'm ready to switch over to my other foot and do the feathers for this design. So here we are, and we've done all of the triangles, and we've got the feather left to do. Now, as I said before, if you're a newbie, definitely worth tracing the feathers out, because you're going to be able to trace them exactly as the pattern is. Each one's identical. Not that they have to be identical, because, you know, it's a flowery, feathery thing, so they don't have to be perfect. So what I've done to help myself along is to actually trace the first one, which I always find is quite helpful because it gets in my head an idea of the size of the shapes. Switch my machine off so you can potentially see these blue lines a little bit better. But we have, you know, basically 5 roughly evenly spaced feathers here. So that just helps me, as I said, to gauge the distance between everything. And I find if I just do one that way, then it makes the next one that may not be traced so much easier. I've got a rough idea where I'm heading to. Okay, so I'll switch the machine on. Now the way I'm going to stitch these guys is probably something similar to how you might do a, I guess, a paisley or something like that, like a teardrop shape. So I'm coming out here towards myself and then back around again. I'm going to use this line of stitching at the back. Basically, I'll pull that down a little bit, you can see a little bit better. I use that line of stitching. Alright, so just turn things around a little bit. So with that feather, I'm going to sew it like a paisley, and I'm going to use this line of stitching that's already there from that triangle. I'm going to use that to backtrack into. So I'm not going to go long, I'm going to come out and do the next feather, but I'm going to try to stop when I get to that line. Okay, so I'm going to start with the little one and work my way up to the big one. And take a few stitches and just whip that thread out of there. Big long tail. Now I'm not going super fast. I am kind of using those lines as a guide. So straight back out. I'm going to get to that line and stop, reposition my hands to do the next one. So I'm turning it around so I can really see where that plume is. You have to make things easier for yourself, frame up your work, watch your posture, all those things. And we're just going to do these one plume at a time. So reposition the hands, and away we go for number 4. Okay, and we've just got this one left. So as I'm working, I'm kind of bringing my work around so that I can really see that whole space. Okay, so if I'm tucked back here, it's kind of hard for me once I start this plume to get to the back. So the other thing I'm going to do is flatten my fabric out because I don't want to create any puckers. And I'm not going to go too fast. By having my work flattened out, I've got that little bit more control and I don't have to go too fast. Okay, and there we go. We've got the plumes done, first 5. So we're going to continue to do a set of those in each of the open spaces, and then that completes our block. It's a relatively easy one, I will say, this time around. So let's get those other ones done and then we'll be all finished. We finished that last one, and look, they're all quite different. I still think that block looks fine. It's interesting. It's all feathers. In the grand scheme of things, people are going to be looking at these 2 blocks because there's only 2 of these blocks in the quilt, in conjunction with all of the other blocks. Okay, so you know, whether you love your feathers, hate your feathers, just go for it and have some fun. Draw them on first if you want to use them as a guideline. Okay, so that's it for this block, and I will see you in number 6, I guess, the next block that we're going to be doing for our free motion quilt along. Thanks for joining me. Bye.